welcome in to the NFL Future and Week 1 episode of Illegal Contact Podcast, brought to you by the Monopoly Bets segment here. I am riding solo, Thomas Pensiero here, all by myself. I knew that they couldn't keep up. They gave up. They knew they couldn't keep up with me in the NFL. I'm all by myself. It's probably for the best. This is how you're going to want to do it. We are going to go ahead. Kyle and Christian did give me their picks for the NFL futures and for week 1. So we have a ton of picks and bets here. We're going to start with the futures. Again, Monopoly Bets here for Illegal Contacts Podcast. The way that this is going to work is for Monopoly money. This is not real money that we are betting. We do not advocate for that, but this is a fun system. Follow along throughout the season to see how we do. We're tracking everything, starting here with college. We've already done and started. Now the NFL is kicking off for the future bets here. We each have $2,000 to go with. We've broken it down into 4 different categories. And then when we get to week 1 and for the regular season, similar to college football, we have $5,000 to work with running total. If you go into the negative past that 5,000, there will be consequences. We'll get into that if that happens, but we know we're all pros here. That's not going to happen. All right, so looking at the NFL futures, because the first game is tomorrow, Thursday night, Lions and Kansas City Chiefs, starting off the NFL season. I know we're all so excited for that. And then Sunday, we get the full slate. And then I get the Monday night game with the Jets and the Bills. So cannot wait for real NFL games to happen. But we need to get our futures in before that Thursday night game. So here we are. I have all of the futures for the 3 of us, $2,000 total. We're going to go ahead and start with division winners. So I have Christian's here first. On division winners, he has the Bills at plus 120 for $25 to win the AFC East. He has the Ravens plus 210 for $25 to win the AFC North. He has the Jags at minus 155 for $50. A little bit more confident there with the Jaguars to win the AFC South. And then, of course, I have a feeling that this may be unanimous. He has the Chiefs at minus 180 for $25 to win the AFC West. So that is his AFC division winners. Let's go over to Kyle's AFC winners as well for the division odds. Kyle's looking a little bit more risky here, taking a stab in the dark at the Dolphins to win the AFC East at plus 290. He put $25 on that. So again, I forgot to mention this, but for division winners, so we have 8 divisions. This is a total of $250 that we've broken down into this category for futures. So Kyle is putting $25 on the Dolphins. He's putting $25 on the Ravens as well. So him and Christian both have the Ravens locking up Lamar Jackson with that new contract to win the AFC North. Wow. And then he's got the Jaguars and the Chiefs as well. He put $25 on the Jaguars, $25 on the Chiefs. So I knew that the Chiefs would be probably pretty unanimous here as far as the AFC goes. So again, Kyle has $25 each on the Dolphins, Ravens, Jaguars, and Chiefs. Christian put $25 on the Bills, on the Ravens, on the Chiefs, and $50 on the Jaguars. So he's feeling pretty confident there. All right. So looking at my side here, I did also, this was tricky. All right. So with the AFC East, you all know that I'm a Jets fan. I feel pretty good about the year, trying to be unbiased. I like the odds. I don't think the Dolphins end up winning the AFC East, although they may have some of the highest upside. But so I went with Kyle. I picked the Dolphins to win the AFC East, mainly only because the odds, they had the 3rd best odds at plus 290. I like those odds as if they do stay healthy. Those are pretty good odds there. I couldn't go with the Bills at basically even money. And I'm waiting on the Jets here. I have another bet on them later on, but I only put $15 on the Dolphins there. Another high odds bet that I liked here, the AFC North is another division that is very hard to determine which team comes out on top here. Obviously, the Bengals have won it the last 2 years. No team in the AFC North has won the AFC North 3 years in a row since it's been called the AFC North. So I'm going to stick with that bet, not have the Bengals. And I believe, right, so Christian and Kyle both had the Ravens. So nobody is picking the Bengals here, most likely because the odds aren't great either. So I'm actually going with the Steelers here at plus 470. The Steelers, Mike Tomlin, plus 470. I'm only going to put $10 on that because I do feel more confident about these next two bets. And one of them is the Jaguars. So we are at a full sweep in the AFC South. The Jaguars at minus 155. I put $15.50 there so that I can get that even $10 back. And then, of course, a full sweep on the AFC West. The Chiefs, the reigning champions, of course. Am I slightly nervous that Kelsey is already hurt? Maybe, but it's Mahomes. It's Andy Reid. It's the AFC West. And at minus 180, I'm going to go ahead and put $90 down there. So I feel most confident about that. I want that return of $50. So that will wrap up the division winners in the AFC. I'll go ahead and, as far as the NFC, a little tempted here to go away from the Eagles. I don't think they're going to have as much injury luck this year as they had. I don't think that defense will be able to perform like they did last year, obviously with 70-plus sacks. A lot of aging key veterans stayed very healthy with Kelsey and Lane Johnson and a few guys on that defense stayed healthy all year long and produced really well. I don't know if that's going to be the case this year, but I just couldn't go away from the Eagles. That offense is going to be electric. Again, that might be showing up at a few of my other bets here, but the Eagles at minus 115, I like it. It's almost even money there. I'll put $35 on the Eagles. And then as far as the NFC North, another division that was tough. You can go many different directions here, none of them being the Bears, hopefully. I'm going with the Vikings for the NFC North here because obviously I don't think that they're going to be a 13-win team again as well. Is there going to be some regression? Yes. But I don't know if it's going to be as much regression as everybody thinks. I know they were maybe 9-0 last year in one-score games. They got very lucky. But when you look at the NFC North, you have the Packers, everybody's favorite darling, the Lions, and again, like I said, the Bears, which are not going to win the NFC North. I still think the Vikings have the best shot here, and I'm getting plus 260 odds here for the Vikings. I put $50. I feel pretty good about this one. They can regress and still be a 9-10 win team and win the NFC North. So I'm giving the Vikings the nod there. The NFC South, I like this is a two-team race here. I like both the Falcons and the Saints. The Falcons at plus 210. That's my bet for $18. And I think the reason I picked them is because Marcus Mariota, they were a 7-win team last year with Marcus Mariota, who arguably was probably the worst starting quarterback in the NFL. They have an amazing rush offense. They add Bijan Robinson. They added a few key pieces on that defense. Arthur Smith may be infuriating to fantasy owners, but he's a really good coach. I like what he's doing there. I think the Falcons are going to come out of the NFC South at plus 210. And then lastly, I think this is I'd be curious to see if anybody else has a different team here in the NFC West, but this may be another unanimous pick. It's the 49ers. It's at minus 165, so they have the second biggest odds to win their division behind the Chiefs. At minus 165, I'll put $16.50 there for the 49ers. You look at that roster up and down, it's a complete roster. The only question mark, again, is quarterback with Brock Purdy. They just signed up Nick Bosa to the biggest defensive contract in NFL history today, so he'll be out there. The lockout is over. If Brock Purdy stays healthy under that Kyle Shanahan offense, he'll be just good enough. He's honestly most likely another Jimmy Garoppolo, just younger. and hopefully he stays healthy throughout the year, unlike Jimmy G did for most of the time. So give me the 49ers to win the NFC West. So let's move over to the NFC division winners for Kyle and Christian. Over to Christian. He ended up going for the NFC East. He picked the Cowboys at plus 175 for $25. I have a feeling Kyle might like that bet and probably has the same one. And Christian here does surprise me. He ends up mirroring my bet with the Vikings at plus 260 to win the NFC North for $50. So I like that, Christian. Good bet there. This may be a homer pick, but Christian does go with the Panthers at plus 360 for $25 to win the NFC South. A bit of an interesting pick, but he's a Panthers fan, so go for it. Why not? For $25. And again, like me, he did pick the 49ers at minus 165 to win the NFC West for $25. So he has the Cowboys, Vikings, Panthers, and 49ers there. Kyle on his NFC side, like you could imagine, did pick the Cowboys at plus 125 for $50. Kyle picking the Vikings as well. So that does scare me a bit that all three of us are on the Vikings, but at those odds, how could you not? He put $50 on the Vikings as well. A little bit of a change up here. So we have three different winners in the NFC South. I'm going with the Falcons, Christian going with the Panthers, and the smart pick here, Kyle going with the Saints at plus 130 for $25. And we get a full sweep here, 49ers, like I predicted, picking the NFC North or NFC West at minus 165. All three of us have $25 there for the 49ers. So that wraps up the division winners. And moving over to the conference championship teams. So this one was a bit tricky. So we tried to stay with the same format as we did in college. Now, with the college football, you can pick conference championship teams, CFP teams. A little bit different here in the NFL, where we were unable to find odds for teams to make the conference championship. So what we did do here is pick two teams from the AFC and two teams from the NFC, both to make the Super Bowl. So not to win the Super Bowl, but to make the Super Bowl. So starting out with Kyle, he ended up going with the Chiefs, a very safe bet, very strong bet. Patrick Mahomes has done it the majority of his career. So going to the Super Bowl, the Chiefs are plus 350 odds, $75 there for Kyle. The other team he picked in the AFC, the Jaguars, another trendy pick here at plus 1,500. Really good odds here. Obviously winning a game last year in the playoffs, he put $50 on that. So that would be a big bet, a big net profit there for him. Over on the NFC side, he's staying in last year's theme with the Eagles. Even though he does not have the Eagles winning the NFC East, he does pick them to make the Super Bowl here at plus 330 in a weak NFC for $50. And then his other team staying a bit chalky here, but that is smart sometimes, especially in a weak NFC. He's picking the 49ers at plus 400 to make the Super Bowl for $75. Now looking over at Christian's bets for the Super Bowl, teams to make the Super Bowl, the Chiefs, he went the Chiefs and Jaguars as well. So he put $75 on the Chiefs. He put $50 on the Jaguars. He does so 3 out of 4 teams. He does have the same as Kyle. He has the 49ers here at plus 400 for $75 in the NFC. And he does not go with the Eagles here, but he goes on theme with his NFC North team in the Vikings at plus 1,200 for $50. So for Christian, just to recap, Chiefs, Jaguars to make the Super Bowl, 49ers or Vikings to make the Super Bowl in the NFC. Now, as far as the teams that I ended up selecting here, trying to look at good odds here, obviously, not always trying to pick the obvious thing here and trying to differentiate my bets so that I can come out here on top in our NFL futures. I'm going to stick with the 49ers here, plus 400. I like those odds to break free, hopefully, from the NFC. It's a bit tough here. Like I mentioned in the NFC, it is a bit top heavy. Hard to find some big winners here. But the other team I did go with is the Saints. So this is where I split. I was a bit split on the NFC South. I did mention earlier that I thought it was a 2-team race between the Saints and the Falcons. Now, I think looking over the schedule, the Falcons may have had a bit of an easier schedule, especially at the end of the year, where I do think that both of these teams will have similar records, and that's why I ended up going with the Falcons to win the NFC South. However, I do like the Saints a bit more. I'm going to double dip again on the Saints here, but at plus 1,700 odds to make the Super Bowl, to win the NFC, I really do like the Saints odds here. I think they could be a double-digit win team. I think the road can be pretty easy there, maybe only having to face one elite team to get to the Super Bowl. I put $25 here, hoping that Derek Carr can make the difference here on what's been a pretty good team in New Orleans. The only issue, again, is Dennis Allen in the coaching staff. No longer Sean Payton in New Orleans. Dennis Allen and his don't look up his coaching record in his career. It'll shock you how bad that record is, but hopefully this will be a different year at plus 1,700. I like those odds. And like I said, I had the 49ers as my other NFC team at plus 400. I put $100 on them. So looking at the AFC, so many different teams here, right? I played it safe with the Chiefs. I think you have to at plus 350. Pretty decent odds for them to, I think they're most likely a lock at least to make the AFC Championship game. So now you have plus 350 odds for them to win that and get to the Super Bowl. Obviously, some good hedging material later on if they get to that point. But I put $100 on the Chiefs to win the AFC. It's a safe bet, but it's one that you kind of have to make when you're picking something like this. So other than Chiefs, I ended up going with the Jaguars as well. Again, I went with one safe team in the NFC, one safe team in the AFC, and then one kind of dark horse per se, and not picking the Bengals or the Bills or the Jets, who have pretty good odds as well. I picked the Jags at plus 1,500, ended up putting $25 there. I just think if Trevor Lawrence can make that leap again, like he was playing those last few games of the regular season and like he was playing in the playoffs last year, they could be a difference maker here with Calvin Ridley, obviously with Doug Peterson. He's been able to get over the hump. He's been able to make that jump here with Trevor Lawrence, and he's done it in the past with the Eagles. So I think it's a solid bet at the odds that you're given. So as far as the format there, that was $250 total as well for conference championships that we had laid out. So we have $500 down in the NFL futures. We have $1,500 left. So we have a decent amount here. The next category that we're going to move over to is fan picks. So we have 4 teams. We're going to choose 2 teams that you follow most likely and want to pull for. Now you can pick over or under in their win total. And then 2 teams that you normally like to cheer against. Again, you could pick over or under, however you like to do that. But we're trying to bring a little bit of emotion into this, a little bit of trying to bet against your bias. And so we have 4 teams here, our fan pick section. This is $500 total of the $2,000 that we have for NFL futures. So I have Christian's pulled up here. We know he's going to pick the Panthers as one of his teams, right? So Panthers win total is at 7.5. He's going with the over. Obviously, we mentioned that he did have the Panthers winning the NFC South at plus 360 odds. So you can get even odds at plus 100 for the Panthers to get over 7.5 wins. So that makes sense. If he has them picking the NFC, winning the division, then you would think that they would hopefully have more than 7.5 wins there. Hopefully we don't have another scenario where a 7-win team is winning a division. So that would make sense here that he's mirroring these picks. He put $100 on the Panthers to have over 7.5 wins here. So his other team that would be a team that he typically might pull for, he's actually going with an under here. Same win total, 7.5. He's getting plus odds here as well. He's going with the Titans at under 7.5 wins on the season. He put $50 on that, and he is getting plus 106 on those odds. On the 2 teams, he's staying in division here. On the 2 teams that he chose that he normally cheers against, he went with 2 unders here. He's sticking in the NFC South here the Buccaneers under 6.5 wins, a little bit juiced up at minus 142. But he did pick to put $200 on that. I like that bet. That's a pretty good one. With Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask most likely throughout the year. And the other bet that he did have, which one is that I probably disagree at, but it is a high number at 8.5. He took the Falcons under 8.5 season total wins at plus 106 here. He felt pretty confident on this one as well, and he put $150. So those are Christian's 4 fan bets. Now looking over at Kyle's, he's going with the Cowboys here, of course. So each of us are going to hopefully pick the team that we root for the most here. He is going over 9.5 wins for the Cowboys. This one is very juiced up. I'm a bit surprised it hasn't moved over to 10 yet, but Vegas is probably getting a lot of action here on the over, and they're probably sticking to it, especially now that the season is starting tomorrow. But Cowboys over 9.5 wins is at minus 162. He ends up putting $50 on that one. So not too confident, maybe with the juice. He didn't want to put too much on that one, but he did have the Cowboys winning the division. So that one makes sense as well for Kyle. His other team that he does typically pull for is the Panthers. He is going over 7.5 win. He's sticking with Christian on that one at plus 100. He feels pretty confident, it looks like, on that one at $150. The two teams, these ones make sense. The two teams that he typically cheers against, the Eagles and the Lions. He ends up going with the over 11.5 wins for the Eagles. That is at plus money at plus 104. He puts $100 on the Eagles. And then, of course, I like this one, Kyle. Under 9.5 wins for the Lions at plus 100. $200 on that one. Feeling pretty confident. It makes sense, right? Everybody's on the Lions. Everybody loves the Lions. But are they going to be able to get double-digit wins? We'll see. I like the under 9.5 there for Kyle. So those are Kyle's bets on his fan picks. Moving over to the picks that I ended up going with here. So I obviously sticking with the Jets here. I'm going with the over 9.5 wins as well for this. Obviously, the Jets ended up going 7-10 last year, primarily with Zach Wilson, a little bit of Joe Flacco, a little bit of Mike White in there. I think even if they get an average Aaron Rodgers, if they get Aaron Rodgers of last year with the injured thumb, with the unmotivation to really lead that team, I think they can get over this win total at 10 wins. And I think they're going to get a better version of that with Aaron Rodgers. He's looking 100% healthy. The thumb is healed. He looks 100% bought in. He looks happy. He looks ready to compete. I know the schedule's a bit tough early on, but if you look at the second half, that's where they can really accumulate some wins if he stays bought in here and healthy. The only question mark to me is the offensive line. So if the offensive line can just be, if they can just stay healthy, which they haven't been able to do, especially last year, they went through so many injuries there. But if they can stay predominantly healthy at the offensive line, they have enough talent there. The Jets over 9.5 wins at minus 122. I put $50 on that. I feel pretty good about this 10-win team, maybe an 11-win team. I do like that on the over, and I know there's been a lot of Jets hate overall in the media so far. People are getting a bit sick of them. It's not necessarily coming from the Jets. It's coming just in general from Aaron Rodgers, just the media coming over. So I'm a bit tired of hearing about the Jets as well, being a Jets fan, but I get it. I think the number is staying at 9.5 because people are trying to fade them because they're sick of it. This is a 10 or 10 plus win team, I think. The other team that I want to root for this year is the Saints. So I mentioned the Saints and how I do like them. Obviously, I like the odds that they have to win the NFC. Their win total is also at 9.5. But if you look at that schedule, first 6 games, it is a cakewalk. Derek Carr finally gets a decent offensive line, finally gets a decent defense, and he finally gets an easy schedule. He doesn't have to face Patrick Mahomes twice a year anymore. He doesn't have to face Justin Herbert twice a year any longer. So I like Derek Carr to have a good bounce back year here. They have enough talent around him. You're getting plus odds at plus 114 for them on the over 9.5 wins. I put $50 on that. But I do feel pretty confident as well in the Saints to be able to get double-digit wins here. The two teams that I'm looking forward to rooting against this year, I went on the first end on the Giants. Obviously, being a Jets fan, I hear a lot about the Giants being here in the New York area. My father's a Giants fan, so I have to hear about it a lot. But I do think this team is pretty good. They ended up making the playoffs, beating the Vikings last year, and they did improve on that roster. Year 2 in Brian Dable, I think this team is better. Now, will they make the playoffs? I'm not sure. But their win total is only 7.5 at minus 104 odds. This is a team that is better than 7.5 wins. This is an 8, 9, maybe 10 win team. I feel really good about that floor. I'm going over for the Giants. I put $200 on them. I feel very confident that the Giants, I don't know about the playoffs, but they should be able to get over 7.5 wins here. The other team that I'm pretty confident on, and I ended up putting $200 on this as well, is the Cardinals under 4.5 wins. It's only minus 120. They're in full tank mode. 100% full tank mode. Josh Dobbs is most likely the starter in the beginning of the year. They ended up waiving Colt McCoy. They've made multiple trades in the last few weeks. They did not make any signings, essentially, in the offseason. They ended up losing a lot of talent. Obviously, Kyler Murray is coming off that ACL tear, and he's unavailable most likely for the first half of the year, if not longer. Obviously, if that team is struggling early on, very little incentive for them to bring him back. And even if they do 4.5 wins, they have to play the 49ers twice, the Seahawks twice. They have a couple of other hard teams as well. I believe they play the Packers. They're most likely losing week 1 against Washington and that defensive line. They want to tank. They want to build a culture here. They want Caleb Williams, most likely. I could definitely see them locking up that number 1 seed in the draft, or the number 1 pick in the draft, and picking another quarterback if they can get off that Kyler Murray contract. But under 4.5 wins, typically we have 3 or 4 teams under that win total. And this is one of the, if not worst, rosters in the NFL right now. So typically there are at least 3 or 4 teams in the NFL that have fewer than 5 wins. If that trend continues this year, the Cardinals will be one of those. So I feel pretty confident about the Cardinals under win total, $200 there as well. All right, so we have the last category here for our NFL futures leading up into the regular season. This is 4 season wagers. So 4 picks. Must wager on an NFL MVP winner and choose a season 3-way parlay or longer if anybody did do that. The other 2 wagers can be whatever you want, or you can do more than 2 on the season totals, right? So I have Kyle's pulled up here. He ended up going with 4 total bets. So his MVP winner, it looks like, is Trevor Lawrence at plus 1,600. He put $100 there. So we have $1,000 total on this category. So this is where it could be make or break, especially if you get the MVP right here. This is really what could change the season totals here on if you get this category correct, a few bets here. So Kyle ends up going with Trevor Lawrence as his MVP bet plus 1,600. A few other bets that he ended up taking in this category: Deshaun Watson under 3,625 passing yards. That is at minus 112. He put $200 there. Tony Pollard over 1,500 rushing yards at minus 112 for $200. Pretty solid bet there as well. So I'm liking so far Kyle's bets. And the parlay that he ends up going for the season-long bet, he has Lazard at 10 plus touchdowns on the season. He has Jags over 9.5 wins. And he has Cowboys to make the playoffs. So he has a three-way parlay here. He ends up putting the majority of his money, $500 here, and the payout would be just under $6,000. So pretty high payout here if he ends up knocking that one out. I think the hardest one there will be a Lazard 10 plus touchdowns. If he stays healthy, that may come to fruition. But Jags over 9.5 wins, Cowboys to make the playoffs, pretty good bets there. And then if he can get lucky with Lazard to get double-digit touchdowns, he's in business, and we may be in trouble there. So over to Christian's bets here for his season unique bets. He ends up picking Josh Allen only at plus $700 to win the MVP. He puts $100 there. Pretty solid bet. If it's could be a bounce back Josh Allen year. Obviously dealt with a few shoulder and elbow injuries last year, which derailed his MVP odds last year. However, he is the new Cam Newton. He is the Superman. That offense revolves around him. So I understand going plus 700 there because he's most likely going to be in that final 3 or 4 discussion at the end of the year, and his odds will drastically shrink there. And looking at a few other bets here, he ended up going with Cardinals to win exactly 3 games. So he's liking my Cardinals under 4.5 win total there, but he's going exactly Cardinals to win 3 games at plus 470. He puts $200 on that. He has Christian McCaffrey, his former Panther, for most total scrimmage yards at plus 650 for $450. He feels pretty good about that one. I like that. Again, if Christian McCaffrey can stay healthy for 17 games, that may be a pretty good bet there. And then his parlay on the season, Vikings to win the division, Bryce Young to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, and Packers under, I think this is an alt line, Packers under 6.5 wins at plus 5,642 are the odds there. He puts $250 on that. So he is fading the Packers. I like it. All right, so looking over to the bets that I end up going here, I think I ended up having one extra bet that I liked. So the MVP bet that I ended up going with here is Jalen Hurts. The reason, and this is at plus 1,200, the reason I ended up going Jalen Hurts, I put $50 on this, is because I felt like his odds were a bit out of whack here. He's behind Justin Herbert. He's behind Mahomes, Josh Allen, obviously. There may be one other that he's behind there. So he's 5th or 6th in MVP odds. That seemed a little odd to me. I know the team around him is so good and that can hurt his case. But like I said earlier, I think that the Eagles might take a step back as a team, as a whole, where they may not be as lucky in injuries. They've been very lucky in injuries in the last year or so. That may change. They lost both offensive and defensive coordinator. Obviously, a little bit of turnover on the defensive side, especially in the secondary. And then obviously the whole new running back group. So I think that this could be another leap year for Jalen Hurts. I feel like it might be a little bit more on his shoulders to carry the offense, obviously with Shane Steichen gone. And I think that they're going to be in closer games. Obviously, if you watched last year, they were a juggernaut in the regular season. He ended up coming out of the game and not playing much in the fourth quarter for the majority of the year because they were in so many blowouts. I think that they're going to be in closer games, meaning he's going to play full games, accumulating more stats. He's going to put 800 plus rushing yards, probably double-digit rushing touchdowns, and then easily 4,000 passing yards if he's playing full games, full season, 30 plus touchdowns or more in the air. So 40 plus total touchdowns, over 4,000, 5,000 combined yards. I think he's got a really good shot here to win the MVP, and his odds are a little bit out of whack here. So at plus 1,200, I like Jalen Hurts here for MVP. A few other bets that I end up going here for season long: Lamar Jackson over 3,350 yards, so 3,350 yards at minus 112 odds. I put $200 there for Lamar. He's never surpassed this in his career, but if he ends up playing the full year, he would a few times. He would have done this. He was on pace a few years to do this, especially his MVP season. He got very close here. Obviously, with Todd Monken as the new offensive coordinator here, they're going to throw the ball more. They brought in a whole new wide receiver corps with Odell and Zay Flowers, and hopefully Bateman is healthy this year. and we know about Mark Andrews, obviously. I just think that if he can stay healthy and play the majority of games, which he hasn't been able to do the last few years, but if he can, he's easily going to over this number at only 3,300 yards essentially here. And they're going to pass a bit more. One that I really like, this is one that I put, this is what I put the most money on out of any of the bets in the NFL futures. I put $300 on Chris Olave to have over 1,025 receiving yards. Chris Olave most likely I think he did him coming in second in Offensive Rookie of the Year to Garrett Wilson last year. And that was a mess of an offense last year. He brings in Derek Carr. He is going to be the main focal point in this offense. Kamara suspended for 3 games. Michael Thomas already dealing with issues. We know that he can't stay healthy any longer. Can you name another pass catcher on the Saints? Yeah, you can't. It's Rashid Shaheed. It's Jawan Johnson. They bring in Jamal Williams in the backfield to fill in for Kamara until he's back, but Kamara hasn't been the same in the receiving game the last couple of years as he was with Drew Brees. I think Derek Carr is going to lock into Olave. We saw what Devontae Adams was able to do moving from Rodgers and not missing a beat to go over to Carr. I think Olave is a lock for over 1,025 receiving yards. So $300 minus 112 odds. Feel really good about this one. Another receiving bet that I ended up going here was Deontay Johnson over only 800.5 yards receiving on the year. This is minus 112 as well. I put 250. I feel really good about this one. He eclipsed this number last year, and he had some really bad touchdown luck. He ended up with 0 touchdowns on the year. I think that will be positive regression. But as far as 800 receiving yards, he's in rarefied air as far as how many targets that he gets. The only other guy he has to compete with here is George Pickens, but I think this offense should be much better this year with Kenny Pickett. I think Kenny Pickett I don't know how much of a leap he will make, but he's going to be better. So I think Deontay Johnson can easily get over 800 receiving yards. He stayed pretty healthy in his short career so far. And they're going to be in a lot of close games. The defense is okay. Obviously, they have a really good front 7, but that secondary might be trouble for them. So they may be forced to pass a decent amount here. So feel good about Deontay Johnson over. And then lastly, I took another over-under on team total wins. I liked Washington here. The Commanders, their win total is only at 6.5. I think that they're another team that may not be a playoff team, but is going to be pretty frisky. Obviously, we mentioned they play Arizona week 1, so you can already knock off 1 win, hopefully, into that total. I put $150. This is even odds at plus 100. Over 6.5 wins for the Commanders. I think Sam Howell may be better than some people think. They have a lot of good weapons. Maybe bring in Eric Bieniemy as offensive coordinator could be a little bit of a jolt here. So I think Washington could be a bit frisky and at least get 7 wins here. So I feel good about that. Oh, and then my parlay here, I went with a 3-team parlay to make the playoffs. Chiefs as an anchor, Steelers and Chargers all to make the playoffs. That is at plus 412 odds. I put $50 on that. So went a bit safer on the parlay here. I feel pretty good about, obviously, the Chiefs and the Chargers to make the playoffs. And then I think the Steelers, like I mentioned, have a really good shot at winning the AFC North. So I feel good about that. So that will conclude the NFL futures segment of Monopoly Bets. You have Christian, Kyle, and myself, Thomas, locking in a number of bets there. I think a lot of good content, a lot of good bets here. We'll see if that can be a difference maker in the season-long bet. So $2,000 total for the future bets on the NFL. And now we have week 1, obviously, like I mentioned. Week 1 starting tomorrow, Thursday night, Lions and Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City Chiefs, Travis Kelce most likely not playing. Chris Jones doesn't seem like he's playing either. He's still in a holdout. Juju is gone. Wide receivers all new. We'll see what happens there. It looks like Christian does have a bet on this game. He ends up going with the Lions at plus 6.5. He locked it in before that started to move. I like it. That's smart. It looks like in some places that has moved down to all the way to 4.5 in favor of the Lions. They're at plus 4.5 for the Lions. He goes for week one bets Lions plus 6.5. He puts $50 at minus 110 odds there. He goes Vikings at minus 6 for $50 at minus 110. So Vikings, I was playing the I feel like I forget who the Vikings were playing, but I have them in another bet, so I may look that up to verify. I don't want to put misinformation out there, but he had a couple other bets here. He's riding the Panthers train. He is going Panthers money line at plus 155 for $25. Ravens minus 10, double digit favorites here. Ravens minus 10 at minus 110 odds. $100 on the Ravens. He feels very well. That is his bet of the week. Steelers money line. I like that against the 49ers at plus 112 for $25. And lastly, Cardinals at plus 7. Risky. All right, Cardinals plus 7 against the Commanders. I get that. The Commanders shouldn't be a 7-point favorite against anybody. It's a game I would stay away from. But if you're going to do anything, Cardinals plus 7, not a bad bet there. Minus 110 odds. He's only putting $25 there. And then he is doing a teaser for his parlay of the week. He is doing Vikings down to a pick'em, a money line, and Chiefs at minus 0.5. So he did a teaser there, $50 at minus 120 odds total. He basically just needs the Chiefs and the Vikings to end up winning that. So I like that. Christian's going a big week one slate there, and his biggest bet of the week is Ravens minus 10. Now over to Kyle's week one bets. Kyle kept it a bit smaller here for week one, which is usually the way that most people go as you get a little bit of a hold of how the NFL season is going to go. However, if you have some good lines here, if you have a couple of good angles, the first few weeks are where you can exploit that. So Christian feels like he has a couple of good bets here to exploit before Vegas is able to adjust. Kyle's playing a bit safer here, although he's got a couple of bet of the weeks as well, a couple $100 bets here. One of them being the Raiders money line at plus 152. He's a big Jimmy G supporter this week, I believe. Raiders money line 152, $100 there. His other $100 bet is the Lions. He did not get the same bet as Christian. Christian locked it in a bit earlier at 6.5. Kyle still gets a decent number here, as it, like I mentioned, is down to 4.5 in some places. Kyle gets it at 5.5 here at the Lions. Minus 115 odds, $100 there. Two other bets here for week one for Kyle. Panthers money line. All right. So Christian and Kyle both have Panthers money line, and they have the Lions to cover. So Panthers money line, he put $50 there. And then his parlay of the week, Browns versus Bengals. Did he do a parlay? He didn't do a parlay. No parlay here for Kyle. That's okay. 4 straight bets. He goes Browns and Bengals under 47.5 at minus 110 odds. He puts $50 there for week one. So Kyle has 4 picks for week one, 2 picks of the week, looks like, at Raiders money line and Lions to cover the 5.5 spread there. All right. So week one, a few bets here. Let me find my week one bets. All right. So week one bets here. I kept it pretty small here, $50 across the board on all 4 of these. I like the Jags at minus 4.5 on the road, but I do like, again, hopefully Trevor Lawrence to take another step here under Doug Peterson, bringing in Calvin Ridley. Only 4.5 point favorites here on the road. I know road underdogs are tough to beat, especially week one. But again, the Jags, this is against Indianapolis. Normally, I think this is, with everything that they've gone through this offseason, no Jonathan Taylor, rookie quarterback, a lot of adversity, a lot of drama with Jim Irsay coming out of the gate. I just feel like this is a spot that the Jaguars can exploit and hopefully take a big win here. They have a lot of momentum coming off the year, a lot of big wins at the end of the year and in going into the playoffs. They are a much better team than the Colts. If you look at that roster, sorry, Peyton, our resident Colts fan, especially on offense, it's Anthony Richardson, his first game, and a bunch of league average or below skill players, Michael Pittman being the best that's going to be out there with Jonathan Taylor again on PUP. So I like the Jaguars for $50 at minus 4.5, and that is at minus 110 odds. The other game of the week that I like here is the Packers and the Bears. Now, I'm not a Packers supporter on season-long bets. I don't think they're going to win the NFC North. However, again, a little bit risky here going with a road favorite per se. Although I believe they are, last time I checked, plus 1.5. So the Bears are still slight favorites, but as far as on the money line, I'm going with the Packers money line at even, plus 100, $50. I know, can't say anything about Jordan Love. We don't know what he's going to be able to give you, but the Packers roster is much better stacked up against the Bears. And it's going to take a little bit of Justin Fields magic here to be able to pull this one off. The Packers could run the ball 60 times on this Bears team and only rely on Jordan Love to throw it 15 times. And now I know that's the Bears' philosophy as well, run the ball down your throat, but we know the Packers' defense is a bit better here. So even though on the road, I'll pick the Packers at plus 100, $50. And the other two bets here, I have one teaser like Christian had, and the other bet straight up Miami Dolphins and the Los Angeles Chargers over 50 on the spread total. $50 there, minus 115 odds. Hey, Miami's healthy. Tua's going out there. Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Devin A-Chain looks like he's going to be able to play. Raheem Mostert is going to play. That is a lot of speed. That is a lot of speed. A little bit worried here that Armstead, the left tackle for the Dolphins, has not practiced this week. And that's a key point for their offensive line and keeping Tua healthy, especially season long. However, we know that offense can put up some points. We know the Chargers can put up some points. And I think the key here is Kellen Moore coming over from the Cowboys over to the Chargers, now coaching and being the offensive coordinator for Justin Herbert. I almost won Herbert with my MVP odds, but like I mentioned, his odds are even better than Jalen Hurts. So I just couldn't justify that. However, we know what the Cowboys did under Kellen Moore the last few years. Top 5 offense, regular season. They put up a lot of points, a lot of plays. It's all about pace for them. And I think that the Chargers are going to be able to put up a lot of points here. Not sold. I know Vic Fangio comes over to Miami, but I'm still not sold on that defense. Jalen Ramsey's out until at least December here. So I like the over 50 here. Both teams can easily put up 30 points. And realistically, all you need here is, 27 to 30. And I think this one goes over 50. The last bet I have, double dipping into that Packers bet, where I'm going to do a teaser here at Packers plus 7.5 and Steelers plus 8.5. So the Steelers, they're going at home. So we're getting 8.5 points at home. When was the last time a Mike Tomlin team got blown out at home? And they're going against the 49ers here. Now, didn't want to go with the win in the money line here, so I felt it was good to add back the Packers in here. Packers shouldn't get blown out by the Bears. 7.5 points. We are teasing through those key numbers of 3 and 7. So I like that. And I just think that both teams should at least keep it close, if not win this. But again, Mike Tomlin at home. This team is improved upon from last year. The offense will take a next step. They should be able to at least keep it close. And I know the 49ers may struggle on offense here a bit. We'll see what Brock Purdy can give you. We'll see if George Kittle is even playing. He's already on the injury report and questionable, severely questionable for week 1 already. So I think that the Steelers and Packers both keep this close, if not win. So I like that in a teaser, minus 120 odds, $50 there. So that is my week 1 slate. Nothing too crazy. Kept it all at $50. No bets of the week. If I had to pick one, I'd probably go with a teaser here. Or again, maybe fading the Bears and going Packers money line is the bet of the week here. So that's a pretty good one as well. So that will conclude our NFL futures and our week 1 NFL bets. NFL is back. This is great. I was solo. Hopefully I held it down all right. We will be back next week for NFL week 2. Hopefully not solo. Hopefully Kyle and Christian will be able to join me there. And then later in the week, Kyle and I will be able to record week 2 of college football and give you our bets there, recap how the season's been going so far. So make sure you tune out for that episode coming out a little later in the week as we wait for a few more lines to come out there. So this has been Monopoly Money presented by Illegal Contact Legal Contact Podcast. I've been Thomas Pensiero. Thanks for tuning in, and good luck this year.